Anum first. Om Parthaye Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayan Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritvarshinim Bhagavati Mashtadashadhyayane Am Tvam Anusandhame Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshini Namo Astu Te Vyas Vishal Buddhe Full Arvind Ayat Patra Netar येन तव्या भारत तैल पूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमया प्रदीपः परपान्न पारी जाताये तोत्र वेत्र एकपानये ज्ञान मुद्राये कृष्णाये गीता अमृत दुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोगदा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर भोगता दुग्धम गीता अमृतम मात वसुदेव वसुतम देवम कंस चानूर मर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णम वंदे जगत गुरुम भीष्म द्रोण तटा जयद्रथ जला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्ये ग्राहवती कृपेन वहने कर्णेन वेला कुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मकरः दुर्योधन अवर्तनी सोतीर्णा खलु पांडवै रन्नदी कवर्तका केशवा पारा पाराशरे वत्सरोजमलम गीता अर्थ गंधोटकम नानाख्यानक केसरम हरि कथा संबोधन अबोधितम लोके सज्जन षटपदय रह रह पे पिए मानम मुदा भूयाद भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसी न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालम पंगुम लंघ्यते गिरिम यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम यम ब्रह्म वरुण इंद्र रुद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्ये स्तवे वेदै सांग पद क्रम उपनिषदै गायन्ति यम सामगा ध्यानवस्थित तद्गतेन मनसः पश्यन्ति यम योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुसुर असुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः. So chapter 15 we're going to start today. Purushottam Yoga. Purushottam. See, the title itself tells us what is the topic discussed in this chapter. Uttam Purush. Who is the Uttam Purusha? The Supreme Reality, God. Purushon mein Uttam. And Purush means the soul, the Atma. Okay, so in this chapter, Lord Krishna is discussing the nature of the spirit in all its implications. But he uses the known for us to know the unknown. So he uses the allegory over here so that we can understand the unknown with the help of the known. He will base his arguments upon a very logical fact. Very logical. And if we just stay with this logical fact, we will be able to understand, at least intellectually right now, what he's talking about. And if we practice what the practices he is giving us throughout Bhagavad Gita, then we can experience it too. But experience happens only after we practice the disciplines he gives us. Continuously he is giving us the disciplines. You remember in the very first section of Bhagavad Gita, the Karam Yoga, he just brought us to the level from a Karam, from a regular Karam to a Karam Yoga, to a Gyan Karam Sannyas, and to the Karam Sannyasi. We really understood what this whole dynamics of Karam is. See, every action has its effect. Every action. And he very logically explained it to us. And it's not only one effect. Every action has three effects, if you pay attention to it. Three effects, every action. What is the first effect? That is the external effect. Externally, and most of the people stay connected with the external effect only. And that also not fully. And that is the effect we see right away. I drink something bitter, I will taste the bitterness in my mouth. I smile at somebody and that person will smile back at me. That is just an external effect of our action. And what is the second effect? Second effect is it is a motive behind our action. And motive behind our action is a mental effect. And from this second effect, what happens? The sanskaras are created. Externally, I smile at somebody, but internally in my mind, I don't like that person. What is happening? The sanskara in my own mind is being ingrained. My guru tells me to do something, and I do it. Externally, I do it, but internally, I do it grudgingly. Then a sanskar of the grudge is being strengthened. On the other hand, if I do something with a love for my guru, what happened? The sanskar of the obedience, sanskar of the love for my guru is being developed. So that is a second effect. But then there is a third effect also of our karmas. That effect is called a cosmic effect or a causal effect or unseen effect. Average person is not familiar with it. They don't think about it so deeply that every action has a deeper than the sanskar also. And that is the causal. And that's where the saying like every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So whatever we give, it will come back to us. If I smile at somebody, smile will come back to me. But there is a causal also. Maybe not right away, maybe in future. So whatever we have given it some times ago, that is a karma. So logically, Lord Krishna explained it to us in the first 6 chapters. See, the third effect is the one where our karmasya is built. Karmasya. All the effects, past effects of the karmas is in that bag. Karmasya. So Lord Krishna is helping us to lift our minds from the known phenomena to the unknown phenomena in this chapter. This chapter is one of the rarest pieces of literature. So directly it indicates the infinite. Infinite means God, absolute. That's why in ancient India, this chapter was recited before eating food. The whole chapter. It was a prayer. Prayer by the Brahmins. That the Brahman community, the wisest of the wise, they recited the whole chapter. So that means they must have memorized the whole chapter. So before taking food. So this chapter starts with the Lord Krishna's words. Udharva moolam adhashakam ashavatam Prahu avyam chandasi yasya panani yatam ved sa vedvit. Udharva moolam. Mool is the root. Udharva means upward. So rooted above. Adha shakam, branches below. Adha means below. Shakam means branches. Ashivtham, that is a name of a tree. It's a banyan tree. Okay, it's like a same family as ficus, same family as a people, but a banyan tree is basically what he's saying, because that tree lives many generations will see the same tree live so long. Ashwatha. Prahu, they speak of. Avyam, indestructible. Chandasi, Vedas. Yasya, of which means the wise people. Panani, leaves. Ya means who, tam means that, Ved means knows, Ved with, the knower of the Veda. They speak, so the wise people speak of the indestructible tree, Ashwatha tree, having its roots above and branches below, whose leaves are the Vedas. He who knows it is a Veda knower. So he's painting a picture which is a tree of life. And he's showing the relationship with the infinite. Roots above. What is above? Above is always something, someone we really honor, we respect, we revere. Roots above. Branches below. So it's a beautiful allegory of the entire spiritual concept expounded in this chapter. First, let's look at Ashavatha word. Ashav means horses. In old times, horses were used in the armies also, otherwise also for transportation. Horses were used. So where will they leave the horses at night? They'll tie the horses under that tree. Every old town in India has this banyan tree. Old people, they sit around also, they used to, and discuss the philosophies, chant the mantras right there. But Ashavtha word has come from there, where they tied the horses. And also, if you look at Shava means tomorrow. Satha means that which remains. So Ashavtha means that which will not remain the same tomorrow. What does that mean? This external world is always changing. Even though it seems like this tree itself lives a long time, but still there is an end to it. So that's why it's called Ashavtha. We also think that we're going to live here forever. But as we approach the evening of our life, then we realize, no, we won't. So Ashavtha tree has its roots up. So this sansar is also considered a vriksha. Vriksha, that which can be cut down. Vriksha. So that's why I said this allegory is very important in this chapter. And that's why Lord Krishna is starting this chapter with this allegory. So he says the Vedas describe this tree with the intention that we should endeavor to chop it down actually. Knower of the Vedas, know it. So that's why Lord Krishna is saying that one who knows the secret of cutting down this tree of sansar is the knower of the Veda. Ved, with, knower of the Veda. So this tree of life has the leaves spread everywhere. Leaves. And leaves are, he says, leaves are the Chandasi, the Vedas. And what are the Vedas? Vedas tell us what to do, what not to do. What is wrong and what is right. So Vedas protect this life of ours. The same way the leaves protect the tree. If you chop down all the leaves of a tree, we know what will happen to a tree. We will stunt its growth. For some trees, they will die also. So Vedas means the knowledge. Okay? So knowledge brings a spurt of dynamism in us. Just like the leaves, they make the tree, keep the tree alive. And the biggest known banyan tree, there is one in India, Kolkata. Very familiar area. That one tree occupies 4 acres of land, one tree. The crown of that tree has a circumference 1100 yards. And there are some aerial roots also. So there are roots above, but the roots go down also. Those aerial roots, 3,300 aerial roots on the tree. So there's a reason Lord Krishna is mentioning this Ashwatha tree in this, because we can think about that tree and then think about this tree of life also. But the man of perfect wisdom, as conceived by the Vedas, is knower of both. Knower of both. This external life also, and then spiritual life also. Both the perishable and the imperishable. And such a rare person is recognized as the knower of Vedas. Okay, so he's starting out with this beautiful allegory in this chapter. Then he continues comparing the material creation with this Ashwatha tree. He says, Adhacha udharvam prasrita tasya shakha gun pravridha vishya pravala adhacha mulane anusantatane karam anubandhine manushya loke. Adha below, udharvam above, prasrita spread, tasya shakha its branches, gun pravridha nourished by gunas, vishya pravalaha sense objects are its buds. Adha means below, mulani roots, anusantatani are stretched forth, karam anubandhini originating action, manushya loke in the world of men, human beings. Below and above are spread its branches. Some branches, even in trees we see, some branches are up and some below also. Nourished by the gunas, sense objects are its buds. And below in the world of men stretch forth the roots, originating actions. So in this tree, as I said earlier, their roots, main roots are up, but then there are area roots going down also. So he's continuing to paint the picture of this tree of sansar and more detail over here. So upward and downwards its branches spread. And this is a flow of life in all of us. Sometimes some actions of ours, some thoughts of ours are uplifting. Some are not. Some are very baser. They even bring us down. It's almost like an animal nature. When we are acting tamasic or even rajasic, but when our actions and thoughts are sattvic, they are uplifting. So that's what it means, upwards and downwards in this tree. So our tree of life is just like that. So these two tendencies are significantly indicated again and again in Bhagavad Gita. And fattened by the gunas, we talk about gunas throughout Bhagavad Gita, right? Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. And over here in the tree, what are those? Those are the buds. We see the nodular buds, and those buds are the potential branches. Because first they are buds, then a branch comes out of it. And it, because in the bud form, it hasn't developed. The same way in the gunas, the kind of a gunas we have, the similar kind of actions will do. And those actions could be uplifting, or those actions could be bringing us downward also. Then he says, the downward the roots extend. So main root of the tree of sansar is that absolute reality. That's where the whole creation has come from. But then the secondary roots, they go downward. They go downward. That's how the vasanas are being formed. The worldly vasanas. Desires are created through these aerial roots. Those are the desires. So sensual desires, they are never fulfilled. Rather, they only multiply. So that's how those aerial roots are also, they keep on multiplying. Our desires also keep on multiplying. The more we fulfill our desires, the more they get created. And in the next two verses, he's indicating how can we cut down this tree. Otherwise, it keeps on growing. How do we cut it down? Na rupam asye ihi tatha uplabhyate, na antaha na cha adi na cha sampratishtha, ashvatvam enam suvirud moolam, asang shastren dridhen chitva. Na rupam. Rup is form. Na means not. Asya, it's. Ih means here. Uplabhyate is perceived. Na antaha, no end. Adi is the origin. Sampratishtha, foundation. Ashvatham, the tree. Enam, this. Suvirud moolam, firmly rooted. Asang shastren, with the axe of non-attachment. Sang means attachment, asang, and shastra is the weapon. Dridhen, strong, chitva, having cut asunder. So our job is to cut this tree down. Because otherwise it's going to keep on growing. So how do we cut it down? That's what he's telling us. He says its form is not here perceived as such. Even though he is giving us the example of that banyan tree, but he says that the tree of the sansar, very hard to perceive. So its form is not here perceived as such, neither its end nor its foundation or a resting place. So banyan tree, still we can see that it's coming from the ground. It's big, but still we see the foundation. But this tree of sansar, we really cannot perceive it. He says, having cut asunder this firm-rooted people, tree, with the strong axe of non-attachment. Asang. This is the only way we can cut the tree of life. Non-attachment. Non-attachment. And continuation of this verse is in the next one. Tataha padam tat parima parimargitvam yasmin gata nanivratanti bhuya tam eva cha adhyam purusham prapadye yataha pravriti prasrita purani. Tata means then, padam means goal, tat means that. Parimargitvam should be sought for. Yasmin, whether, gata gone, na means not, nirvatanti return, bhuya again. Tam means in that, Ev is even, Adhyam, primeval, Purusham, the Purusha, Prapadye, seek refuge, Yat means from which, Pravriti, activity or energy, Prasrita, streamed forth, Purani, ancient. So then that goal should be sought for. So what is our goal? To cut this tree of the sansar. That is the goal for all of us. So then that goal should be sought for, where having gone, none returns again. That is a moksha, mukti. Ultimately, going back where we started this whole journey from. I seek refuge in that primeval Purusha from which streamed forth the ancient energy. Going back home, that is the goal. He says you can go there only if you get unattached. Unattached. That is the only weapon to cut this tree of life. So it's like you got to understand this mystic symbolism over here. Don't take this tree too literally. That's why Lord Krishna is saying its form as such is not perceived here. That's the reason he's saying it. So the tree of life as described in the previous verses is representing the entire field of manifested life. So this is almost like a riddle of Ashwatha tree. Is understood only by few people. Because most of us live this life according to our bodily identifications. Bodily. And we become very confused. Most of the life we live just understanding this body, and that also we don't understand fully. Only a very superficial level we understand this body also. We don't comprehend the origin or the nature. So that's why Lord Krishna is telling us that it's very hard to understand. But what do we do then? How do we detach from it? How do we go towards that goal? Is Lord Krishna telling us that no, we cannot do it? No, he's not that kind of a teacher. He says, I'll tell you, I'll explain it to you, but the work you have to do. I will give you the steps which you need to follow to cut asunder this tree, so that you don't have to return again. See, that's why he's putting in these two verses. He says, from where all this has come from, and if you go back there, you will not return again. This is the goal for our life. But the strong acts of detachment. And this acts needs to be made from knowledge of the self. Knowledge of the self. Self means the soul. That means I am an eternal spiritual being and not the material body. So detachment from this material body and the eternal divine bliss which we are seeking will never come from material things. Sometimes we think we are looking for happiness, but actually we are looking for eternal happiness and peace, which can never come from material things. See, we got to be clear about that. Otherwise, endless lifetimes have been passed, and they're going to keep on passing. Because we want material enjoyment, we keep on running after them, but then we get exhausted. So that's why he says, I am the source. See, all this has come from me, he says. But we've been just going in circles only in this material realm. He says, once you cut asunder this attachment to this materialism, you will come to me, then you don't have to come back here again. So now, very important verse number 5. That's where he is giving us what we need to do, so that we don't have to come back again, so that we attain the goal of our life. Nirman moha, jit sang dosha, adhyatma nitya, vinivrit kama, dvande vimuktaha, sukh dukh sangai, gachanti amuda, padam avyam tat. Very powerful verse. Nirman moha, free from pride and delusion. Man and moha, 2 words. Free from pride and delusion. Jit sang dosha, victorious over the evil of attachment. So he's calling this attachment an evil. Unless we understand this attachment to the material life evil, we won't let it go. Jit sang dosha, it's a dosh, it's a flaw. Adhyatma nitya, dwelling constantly in the self. Adhyatma nitya. Vi nivrit kamaha, desires having completely retired. Nivriti. Dvandahi, free from the pairs of opposites. Vimuktaha, freed. Sukh dukh sange, such as pleasure and pain. He has talked about it many times before. He doesn't get tired of telling us again. That is the beauty of this great teacher for us. Gachanti, reach, amudaha, the undeluded. See, mood is the deluded, mood is undeluded. Padam means goal, avyam, eternal, tat means that. The whole Vedic philosophy is in this one. If we understand it properly, but not only understanding, ultimately we have to live our life according to this philosophy. Number 1, free from pride and delusion. Victorious over the evil of attachment. Dwelling constantly in the self. Their desires having completely retired. Freed from the pairs of opposites, such as pleasure and pain. What happens to this person? The undeluded reach that goal eternal. If we follow this scheme only, then we can say that we are undeluded. Otherwise, we are just deluded, or we are just in between. Sometimes we go there, sometimes we go there. The roots are coming down also, leaves are coming down also, branches are coming down also. Few of them just go up. But in nutshell, we just stay deluded. See, ultimately, philosophy is fulfilled only we can experience its promised goal. Otherwise, philosophy is just something to talk about. But yoga is not that kind of a philosophy. It's something to do. The action needs to be taken. So that's why in this verse, 5 conditions are explained, which are nothing but certain disciplines, adjustments, re-education of the vehicles of life. And that's why Lord Krishna, at the end of this verse, he is concluding that those who have accomplished these shall reach the divine experience. Okay, so now we have to see that how much of this we are practicing. Let's look at number 1, free from pride and delusion. Both these qualities, pride and delusion, indicate a false, exaggerated estimate of ourselves and others. What is a pride? Pride is an erroneous estimate of our own importance. That's a pride, right? Wouldn't you say that? And what happens if we think that we are important and others don't treat us that way? That's where the anger comes. Let me repeat it again. Erroneous estimate of our own importance is pride. And it brings about enormous amount of heavy responsibility upon ourselves to maintain it. And what happens? A person who has such a pride doesn't have any time or energy to cultivate his character, to seek knowledge, or get himself educated. I know enough. I don't need to go to a guru. What did they write in the scriptures? They are old. I am everything. That's it. Wrong estimate. And what is a delusion? Delusion is an error in judgment regarding things and beings, happenings and situations in the world outside. So where pride is our own qualities inside, delusion is about the external world. So delusion makes us live in a false world of our own imagination without actually facing the real problems. We are just deluded. So that's why Lord Krishna said, Nirmana moha, get rid of this pride also and get rid of this delusion also. So this is the very first step. Give up pride that is born out of ignorance. See, this is the reason Guru is important. When we have a Guru, then we say, yeah, who am I? That's where the journey starts. We learn how to surrender. We give man to somebody else. We bend our head down, and some people, they'll prostrate completely, the whole body down. And not just the body down, the mind and the intellect also. Say, Guru, please give me that knowledge, give me that. Okay, so nirmana moha. Then with the evil of attachment conquered, jit sank dosha. To live in the flesh, seeking our life's fulfillment only, the joy derived from our contacts with the sense objects, it's really a cheating ourselves. Cheating. Actually, we are cheating ourselves entirely. So that's why he called it a dosh. Because an ignorant person gets extremely attached to the objects of the world. And once this attachment has grown, all his attachment or attention in life will be turned towards the objects only. Objects become the goal, and the person is forgetting about the real goal. That's why he said, Jit Sang Dosha. So who teaches us about this? A guru does. When we enter the school of spirituality, and if we just stay focused on what Guru is teaching us, this dosh keeps on getting smaller and smaller. And what else Guru teaches us? Adhyatma Nitya, ever dwelling in the self. Because Guru tells us, over here Lord Krishna is telling us, you are the soul, you are part of me. So pay more attention to that part, which is just like me. He's going to talk about that in the future verses in this chapter. So detachment from the world of objects is never possible without attaching ourselves to something nobler and more divine, which is the Atma. Okay, so that's why ever dwelling in the self. Because our mind cannot exist without attaching to something. So thinking about I'm not going to attach to anything is false. Mind which has been attached to the worldly pleasures, attach it to divine pleasures. If we don't understand God, we understand Atma. So ever dwelling in the self. So the spirit of contemplation upon the self. That's what it really means. Think about what is there inside me, that me, which was there when I was a baby, which is there when I'm in a deep sleep also. The same me was a young girl. The same me is now an old lady. Thinking about that me, that is called ever dwelling in the self. Because mind which has been thinking about the problems or the essential pleasures, think about yourself. That's what he's saying. But he says nitya. But nitya we can do it only if we make a habit of doing it. That's why gurus, what the gurus say? First thing in the morning when you get up, meditate. Last thing before you retire for the day, meditate. During the daytime also, several times, think about yourself. Throughout your house, keep divine pictures. Those are reminders to us. When we look at a divine picture, it could be a Lord Krishna's, Lord Ram, any form. Our head goes down, automatically it goes down. It makes us humbler. It makes us remember the goal of life. Otherwise, we are churning about the problems in this life. The problems will always be there. That is the whole game over here. So, Adhyatma Nitya. Live in a spirit of contemplation upon the self. Number 4, their desires completely at rest. Vinivrit kamaha. Desire is the function of the intellect. When the intellect is desiring, because intellect says, not this, this. The mind starts contemplating upon the desired object. So as the desire, so the thought. So the intellect should be disciplined not to desire for the finite joy. Okay, when the mind is going towards the temporary material side, move it towards the divinity. Tell your mind, I have played enough with these toys. No more of this finite joy. I am an infinite being who will rest and be fully satisfied only I'm one with the infinite. This is a work of an intellect. So when the desires have ended, the mind becomes still. Because otherwise, as long as the desires are there, mind just keeps on fluctuating, keeps on giving us problems. Then 5th discipline, he says, released from the pairs of opposites like pleasure and pain. See in Sanskrit, what does it say? Dvandahi vimuktaha sukh dukh sange. When the body comes in contact with the sense object, it is the mind that comes to experience The final result of that contact could be pain or pleasure. We got to rise above it. The pairs of opposites. Pairs of opposites are only in the Prakriti, not in the Atma, not in the Paramatma. So that's why he said, release yourself from the pairs of opposites like pleasure and pain. Okay. So then at the end he says, with a very positive and optimistic declaration, it's like the style of Lord Krishna. After explaining something very forcefully, he just says. So in this one, he says, the undiluted, if we follow these 5 principles, the disciplines, he says, undiluted, reach that goal eternal. I would say just write them down, these 5, and see in your life, the station of life you are in, how can you cultivate these qualities? And if you have any question, if you have any comment, or if you have any kind of a doubt about it, talk to your guru. These are the things which we need to talk about. We all need a mentor so that it's more clearly, because sometimes these books, everything is written in the books, but we really don't know how to dissect it from the books. But this verse, it's a beautiful verse. Step by step, Lord Krishna is telling us, but still there could be some questions. Either you can go back in Bhagavad Gita and find the answers, because all the answers are in Bhagavad Gita, but you got to know how to find the answers. But these are the 5 disciplines. So Nirman Moha, Jit Sang Sanga, Adhyatma Nitya, Vinivrit Kamaha, Dvandeva Mukta, Sukha Dukh Sangye. These are the 5. And if you want to know in English, free from pride and delusion, evil of attachment conquered, ever dwelling in the self, desires completely at rest. It's talking about the worldly desires completely at rest, released from the pairs of opposite like pleasure and pain. These are the 5. I would say this is our homework this week. Take a piece of paper and contemplate on it. Where am I? What work I need to do? Because after this, Lord Krishna says that you will become undiluted. And you are undiluted, you will reach your goal. We don't have to die to reach the goal. We will live beautifully in this world, but we won't be attached to this world. We can enjoy our rest of the life over here, and when we live effortlessly. We'll become one with where we have come from. Okay, so I'm going to stop it here, because I mean, this is a pretty deep chapter, just like every other chapter is too, but this particularly very deep philosophy in there. I want you to go over these 5 verses this week, and if you have a question, call me, or if you have another guru in your life, go to that person, talk about this. Okay, but only you'll have to approach the teacher, okay, so that you can understand it properly. So just 5 verses. Okay, then we'll start with the 6th one next week. So any question, any comment? Jyoti, did anybody?
Shilpa has a question. Shilpa, unmute yourself.
Yes, Shilpa.
Shilpa, you have to unmute yourself.
She cannot do it, looks like.
Okay. Actually, I'm confused. So would pride be considered same as ego?
Yes, pride is ego.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
okay.
pride is
Okay.
definitely ego. See, different names for the same thing. There's so many synonyms, So, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Kim has a question. Yes, Kim.
Kim, you have to unmute yourself.
She cannot unmute. Somehow people have difficulty unmuting themselves, Jyoti.
Here, I'll unmute everybody. So then,
Okay, all right. Sure. Kim.
Thank you. Yes, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. Hershey, I've been thinking about this a lot, about being same in pleasure and pain and praise and blame and reflecting. And when I ask myself why it's so hard to actually live that way,
Mm-hmm.
I see that it's because the mind is impure.
Mm-hmm.
It's just habituated to a lifetime of selfishness. There's so little selflessness in there, so little love. Like even for myself, I don't know how to love myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're starting from such a low point, it's hard to see like what the baby steps are. How do you even ignite the spark of love and selflessness within you when that spark is so small? So
Yeah, see, that's why the daily discipline is very important. Sticking to the discipline, just without even thinking about it, just do it. Get up at a proper time, the time you have decided, sleep at a proper time. The whole day has to be chalked out. Don't deviate from it. There should be time to study, time to exercise, eating healthy food, and definitely a little selfless. Even if we cannot do a lot of selfless service, some amount of selfless service has to be there. So what happens from there, it grows. Okay, so these are the baby steps. Okay, every day picking up a scripture. See, in your case, this Bhagavad Gita, just pick it up and do it. Meditating regularly, praying regularly. So when we have a life disciplined like that, you will see that God helps us. Okay? So these are the baby steps. These are all baby steps. Okay? While doing other things, while doing your duties, while attending to the meetings, while working, while cooking, cleaning, all that, this should be added in there. Okay?
oh, thank you so much.
And it's doable because all the yoga gurus, even the yogic incarnates also, they were householders. We cannot say that, oh my God, I'm a householder. I have a spouse, I have a house, I have children, I cannot do it. They all did.
Yes.
If they could do it, we could do it.
Yes.
I always think about my own Guruji. Raised a big family, worked in a position where so many people reported to him, but he handled all that.
Yes.
Still keeping his mind always on the self. Lived a beautiful life. Okay, so we got to just keep some kind of a ideal in our mind. If that person did it, I can do it too. We draw inspiration, the motivation, the guidance from our Guru. Okay, because our mind is the one which just tells us, no, we cannot do it. It's too difficult. No. To me, I think living a life like this is easier than the other way around.
Yes.
Right? Pleasing the world, it's impossible. Pleasing God, so simple. I would rather please God than the world. right? All our life we've been trying to please the world. Okay? So no, pairs of opposite. Pairs of opposite doesn't mean that we don't have to take an action. Okay? If my hand is feeling the heat in the fire, I should move it back. But my mind should not get troubled with it. If I'm sick or somebody in my family is sick, I should take care of them. But not with a disturbed mind, with a calm mind. Okay? So outer actions we need to take, but with a calmness of the mind.
Yes.
Is that clear, Kim?
Yes, thank you so much.
I think Kim knows what to do. She just wants to know whether I know it or not, right? Okay, anybody else? Sujata, you have a question, comment?
Actually, no, I mean, actually, this is the first time. I've always been a little confused about this chapter, actually. And today I understood it so much better.
Good.
You know, I mean, it was like, I always thought that, you know, the tree, I did not visualize it as the upside down tree. I visualized it as the banyan tree. And then I said, the roots are always there, but that's where we want to go, in the upside down tree.
Upside down, the source is up there.
Up there, yes.
Source, especially in this verse, he clears it for us.
He does. And I'm so glad that I had a chance to listen to you again, you know, to understand better. That's my only comment.
I'm glad. Anybody else? I think Sumati has something to say, Sujata's mom. Jyoti, just unmute her also now. Or maybe she needs to do it.
She needs to do it. Everybody's been unmuted.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
So I want to say about Kim. Kim needs to give a positive message to herself that I am worthwhile. I am important to myself, because many years she must have given this negative message to herself. I am not worth. My self-esteem is very low. First of all, she has to start giving positive messages to herself and get out of this, of course, low self-esteem. This is what also helps. What is good in me? She has to search what is good in me, and she will find herself and feel better. Did you understand?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, and you know, Lord Krishna is going to tell us that. He's going to tell us in the I think it's next. Let me see which verse is that. In verse number 7, he's going to tell us, you are part of me. Mam ev anshaha jeev loke. You are part of me. The real us is part of God. What is there not to like? We've been estimating ourselves based upon the Prakriti. In the Prakriti, things can be good and bad. Okay, in the God's world, everything is good. We are part of God. We have to draw our importance from there. Okay, so Urmil has a question, looks like. Urmil.
No, I just joined. I was on Zoom with everybody in India, my in-laws in India.
I see.
So
okay.
I couldn't join earlier.
Okay, all right.
It was really nice to be on Zoom with the family at home.
Yeah, definitely.
Now I have to listen to your recording as soon as it's put on.
Okay, I'm sure Jyoti will take care of that. Anybody else? Any question? Otherwise, yes, Pramila.
You have to unmute yourself, Pramila.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I had a comment that I've read this chapter so many times. The way you explained today, it really went into the depth of it, and I understood it much better today.
Good. I'm glad.
Thank you for it.
Yeah, no, sure, definitely.
Enjoyed it.
Okay, all right. So if anybody else has a question or a comment, otherwise I'll ask Manny to play
Time for many.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We forgot Purnamadam.
Yes, thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevam Thank you very much for coming and see you in next class.